Hi, I'm Lucy A. McLaren, and this is a reading from my debut book, Awakening the Commune's Curse, Book 1. I'm going to be reading from Chapter 3 in the perspective of Commander Suleiman. Commander Suleiman hesitated as he approached Lord Torrent's door. His hand sat on the leather pouch at his waist, a small trinket to the unknowing eye, but for those who knew beyond the disconnect between the cracking, aged material and the commander's otherwise pristine uniform, a symbol of solemn reminders. A reminder of the destruction ravaged through the Noman Islands, the commander's home, by a traitorous group of his own people cursed with powers when he was just a child. Over 20 years had passed, yet the pain and rage burned on within his heart, fueling his resolve to stay in Septima, working for the Commune and bringing those with powers under control. A reminder of honour, of duty. "Veritara, protect me," he whispered, releasing the pouch and tilting an ear towards the door. Though he knew from the sounds of voices and laughter inside there were guests being entertained, his pride willed him to make his report without delay. Lord Torrent would expect no less. Commander Suleiman inhaled deeply, drew his hand into a fist, and knocked twice on the dark oak. Inside the room, the conversation ceased. He imagined all eyes watching Lord Torrent, waiting for a reaction to this disturbance. Despite his trepidation, he twisted the door handle and pushed it open, beating his fist twice against his chest before dropping it to his side. "Commander Suleiman," Lord Torrent said, from his seat at the head of the dining table. He was joined by a man and woman, resplendent in their fine dress, the remnants of a vast feast scattered on the table before them. "My lord," the commander said, bowing his head, "I am sorry to interrupt, but I have your report regarding the raids on—" "Let's not bore my guests with such talk." Lord Torrent smiled at the woman, apparently sharing in some private joke. The commander tried to ignore the shard of envy it drove into his gut. "Of course, my lord," he said. "I can return at a more appropriate time." He swerved back towards the door, red cloak snapping behind him. "Commander Suleiman," Lord Torrent said, stopping him mid-step. The sound of a chair scraping on floorboards was followed by light footsteps. The commander jerked at the touch of an elegantly jewelled hand on his arm. The great ruby ring upon Lord Torrent's middle finger, a sign of his loyal service to the Grand Magister, glimmered in the light of the candelabra beside them. "You must be tired. Surely you can join us for a glass of wine." "No, my lord, I don't think—" Lord Torrent's pale blue eyes pinned him to the spot, lips curled into an all-too-familiar smile, a pulsing heat flowing from his hand. "You're allowed to relax, aren't you?" The commander swallowed, nodding briskly. "Of course, Lord Torrent." "Just one glass, that won't do any harm." "Excellent. Come, Lord Ambleside here brought a bottle of his family's own vintage." Lord Torrent withdrew his touch and returned to his seat. "Oh, Lord Torrent, surely not. Something plainer must do for a simple soldier. And an McLaren at that." It was the woman who spoke, voice filled with indignation. Commander Suleiman clenched the back of his chair, fixing her with a glare. Simple soldier, McLaren, as though his life could be summed up so plainly. But the woman was raising an eyebrow at Lord Torrent without so much as a glance towards him, full of arrogance at her own assumed superiority. The commander daren't speak and disrupt whatever goodwill was being sought here, so he stood and waited. Now, Lady Cragside," Lord Torrent said, teeth flashing into a grin beneath his close-cropped black beard. "This is no simple soldier, as you so delicately put it. Commander Suleiman is my most trusted man. I would lay my life in his hands." He shared a glance with the commander, a bolt of electricity passing between them, an unspoken link binding them together. Their connection was shattered all too soon by the light tinkling of Lady Cragside's laughter. Commander Suleiman suppressed a shudder as he took his seat and helped himself to a glass of wine, knuckles tightening around it to conceal his trembling. "Well, if you say so, my dear Lord Torrent," the woman said, finally turning to study the commander with emerald green eyes, perfectly complemented by the matching jewels at her throat and the creamy gold bodice of her gown. She was attractive, it could not be denied, if you were a man who appreciated such things. Lord Torrent was not such a man. Lady Cragside said, smirking between Lord Torrent and the commander, evidently believing them both to be beholden to her beauty. Commander Suleiman coughed back a laugh, trying to catch Lord Torrent's eye to share in mockery at her ignorance. Lord Torrent gave him an almost imperceptible smirk before giving Lady Craigside the reassuring smile one might give a slow-minded child. Taking it for encouragement, she tapped her finger to her full pink lips as she turned towards the commander. Perhaps it would be interesting to speak to one of your birth. I'd thought the Grand Magister had put restrictions on the entry of Nomaran immigrants into Septima of late. He has, Lord Torrent steepled his long fingers. Commander Suleiman has been with me for some years. He came to Septima before the borders were restricted. Lady Craigside nodded with interest, eyes roving over the commander as though he were a specimen on display. Truly quite remarkable, Lord Torrent. Such black skin, such dark eyes. Well muscled, too. Look at those shoulders. Her eyes glinted. I know women who would pay well for his services, especially now that it's harder to find a Nomaran in any decent society. The Grand Magister's decree has seen to that. Decree? Commander Suleiman snapped his gaze to Lord Torrent, the question forming on his tongue. But before he could ask, the woman let out a throaty chuckle and said, A well-chosen bodyguard, my lord. You have done well. Bodyguard, services, he bristled. How dare she speak of me like some prized possession? If only she knew the true extent of his relationship with the man she believed under her thrall. If only she could see the constant, torturous memories that swirled inside his head. And that is a brief snippet of Awakening the Commune's Curse Book 1, which is available now in paperback, ebook, and on Kindle Unlimited. Do check it out.